the way it is. We're here to talk about models, not that. Right here, we have the results of the Bondo. I was going to sand this on camera, let you guys see that. Didn't get to. Didn't realize the camera was full after I pushed record. It didn't record anything. But I did sand that down. That came out pretty good. You saw that I put it on. It was pretty thinned and runny. This Bondo putty is usually not that thin and runny. It's usually about the same consistency as the Squadrons. Okay, and it went on and it dried like it went on. It went on in a pretty thick clump. It dried in a thick clump, which is wonderful to me. Here it is on the bottom side. You can see it right there. It's sanded down pretty easily. Okay, so I got two things left to do. One, I'm going to come in and summarize the different putties, the pros and cons, in my opinion. I'm also going to make a list of what I think makes a good putty. Number two, and that's what I'm going to do right now, is I want to see how well my putty work did on these seams. It's where the silver paint comes in. Some of you have seen me do this before. If you've been with me for a while, watching the videos for quite a while, this is not new to you. I like to use silver paint. Yeah, let's use this brush. I like to use silver paint to see how well my putty is. Paint's difficult.
Does not want to be used today. It's saying no, no, do not use me.
Anyhow, I like to use silver paint to try to highlight the seams and see where they're standing. So, let's get some silver paint out and just start smearing it around the seams. Smearing on the seams. Smearing on the seams. Here we go, a painting. Silver on the seams. Okay, I'm in one of those moods today where I'm just being kind of goofy and silly. Hopefully you guys don't mind. I got a fly bugging my head right now. We'll talk about that in a future video and what I think about flies. I mean, really. We will. Uh-oh, found a seam I completely missed. That's what the silver paint is for. It shows this stuff off. And I'll show you guys all that in a minute. In fact, I found a bunch of seams I completely missed. Bad, bad me. And a seam I did not sand anywhere near well enough. But that's why I'm doing this. This highlights the seams. The reason the silver paint works is it is very, very reflective of light. And if you have a nice smooth surface, it's going to look one way. Any jaggies on the surface are going to look another. And that's why silver paint is my friend for checking seams. Okay? Not to mention, if I want to take this off, it's Tamiya paint, a little bit of alcohol. I throw this in a bucket of alcohol. There is no more silver paint on this. Alright, I'll clean the brush up in a second. What I want to do real quick is stop and show you guys the end result here. Oop, I got one more spot to paint. Over. Alright. Now, starting at the top, we're going to zoom her in a little bit. And we're going to go around. This top half up here, perfect. No seam lines, no nothing. I'm going to have to rescore some of these panel lines. I'm not worried about that. So, you know, rescoring of panel lines is nothing. Well, I shouldn't say that. Alright, seam across here. Still a little jagged in spots. You can see it when I tilt the ship. There's a teeny bit of work that needs to be done. Basically right here. Yeah, I get the paint on a little bit thicker so there's no discrepancies in the color of the paint. You can see that spot needs to be fixed. Okay? So there's a tiny spot right there that needs to be fixed. This spot is good. Across the top here is good. Across the top here is good until I get right there. Now that was Mr. Surfacer. Okay? That right there was the shaved sprue. Mr. Surfacer. The Bondo, perfect. Mr. Surfacer again. Back here was shaved sprue and Mr. Surfacer. I completely missed that one right there, and you can see it very well that I completely missed that. This was just Mr. Surfacer on this back flat panel, and it's perfect. I missed this seam right here, so I got to do some work on it. This was the Aves, and you can see that it's not 100% good right now. More Aves along here, and you can see it again, it's not 100% good. Along here is Mr. Surfacer, it's good, except for this one needs a little bit more touching up. Here I used the Bondo on this half, and I think Aves on this half. And the Bondo needs to be lightly sanded to be smoothed out. The Aves still has a crater to it. Along here was Mr. Surfacer again. And right at the beginning here I think was Aves, and you can see it's not so good. Okay? So there's a walk around of the joints on that. Now, one of the missiles. Let's hit one of the missiles real quick, just to see what's up with that. I did this missile completely Mr. Surfacer. Perfect. Okay? No complaints on that end of the missile. This end of the missile up here needs a teeny bit of touch up. No, it don't. That was just a brush stroke. It's perfect. So I call that one done. Let's get the part that was horrible. This part. Hit her with a little bit of the silver paint. And it needs a touch up here and there, a teeny bit. I'll hit her with some Mr. Surfacer. But this was the Sergeant's White putty. Okay? And people tell me it shrinks. You watched me sand that. I've not touched that since I sanded it. There was no shrinkage. I'm convinced the shrinkage is from overworking the putty with the sandpaper. You're getting a little too gung-ho with it, and it just starts removing the putty because it's a soft putty. So it was perfect. Close to perfect. Now, here again we have some Mr. Surfacer. Along here there's some Aves. And we're just checking that, and that all came out really good. Okay. Along here there was some really bad seam lines on the bottom of this engine nozzle. And yep, they're still there. I'm going to have to hit that again with some more work. I'll probably hit that with either the Bondo putty or Mr. Surfacer. That one needs a teeny bit more work. Let's take a look at this one and see how it's going. Yeah, you can see that right there. That come out good. I have to rescore the line a little bit, but I expected that. That's one thing about finishing seams on models. You're going to lose some of your panel lines. But don't go getting upset about that, because you can rescore them. And that is a very useful skill to have. If you can rescore a panel line, you're in great shape. Now see, that one came out good. I'm putting this one in the done pile, so I don't have to touch it up again and get ready to rescore some lines on it. And that's all this one's going to need, is some scoring. She's done other than some panel line scoring. Okay? And the other parts, I'm not going to worry about too much. Here's another one that was Mr. Surfacer. And as I put the silver paint on, you can see it's coming up okay. Looks to be fine. Alright? No, it needs a little touch-up work down at the bottom. Bam! The end result is this. Basic steps are this. Put your putty down. Well, prep your surface. Put your putty down. Sand. If you think you're done, get some silver paint. Because I thought I was done with this ship. And you can see many places where I'm not done with it. As soon as you apply some silver paint, it just makes those bad spots stand out to the point where you can see them. It allows you to check your work. You know, and that's what you need, is to be able to check your work. Because once you hit it with the primer, you're thinking, I'm done, I don't need to do any more seam work. Then that shows up, because that'll show up in the primer as well as it will the silver paint. And again, I use the silver paint because it's really, really reflective of light. And under lighting, you can see the irregularities pretty quickly. Like this part's done. I can put the end caps on it. Okay, so I get to do a little bit of assembly work there. But I've also outlined a few parts that need some more work before I give them paint. Now this part here, I put no putty on whatsoever. I just sanded it really heavily to get the seam to disappear. And you can see, that worked. Okay? So that part's done too. It's on the done side. The stand, I did some Mr. Surfacer, and I've removed a lot of the details from the stand. They were in my way, so to speak, because the stand was just horrible with seams. So I just got kind of nasty with the sanding on it. But overall, the seams are gone on the stand. So it's in the done pile as well. So I got about half the parts in the done pile, half of them are not. Yep, that one's in the done pile. That's the one that's in the done pile. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts that still need some seam work. But once that seam work's done, I can glue her all up and start painting. That's an email. Yeah, I use the cat sound for email. It is much fun when you're walking around the grocery store, have your phone go meow, and a whole bunch of old ladies go scooting by going, I heard a cat, I heard a cat, I heard a cat. Alright, so up next, I'm going to fix these seams. I'm going to keep that off camera. You've watched enough seam work by now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in a moment and I'm going to rate the putties. I'm going to go through each putty one at a time and rate them. Okay? Now, keep in mind, whichever method you use for filling seams, the more you use it, the better you're going to get at it. Like, you saw me do the shave sprue method for the first time on camera. Okay, I've never done it before. And it didn't turn out all that good. But more and more practice with it, I'm sure it'll come out better and better and better. Another way around the shave sprues, just go buy yourself some really thin styrene, cut it to size and lay it down. Okay? Or some styrene rods. Cut them to size, lay them down, hit them with a Pro Weld. That's probably going to be better than what I'm doing. But no matter what, pick a method you think you're going to be good with, practice, you will be good with it. I've done a lot of seam filling with the Sergeant's White, and I've gotten used to it. I've done a lot of seam filling with Aves. I've gotten used to it. And the Bondo is the same thing as the Sergeant, so I can switch between them real quickly. And I kind of like the Bondo better than the Sergeants, to be honest with you. Okay? And again, we'll come back. I'll first come up and say what I think makes a good putty. And second, I'll rate each putty. So that'll be in a little bit. I got to take some notes and make some prep work first, because I want to give them rating on a scale of 1 to 5 for each of my categories. So I want notes in front of me. I'm going to write a script for the first time ever. Alright, be back in a bit. This is my cat show find. Hello Kitty, bobbing her head, sitting on a toilet. It's priceless.